There are two brands which are currently dictating the best valued watches in the budget area. There's Timex, but there is also Citizen, known for their outstanding finished watches. And guess what? This time they stepped up even higher. Zenshin in Japanese means progress, improvement, or advancement, and Senkei means clear lines. Citizen basically decided to extend the popularity of the Zenshin small seconds and to complement it with a better designed and sized chronograph because it feels it was room for it. So I was wondering why Citizen decided to launch a better improved version of the last year's model. It felt it was enough because that model is truly a beauty. Failing also to understand why they don't capitalize more on some of the models to create context around them and more strap options for them. It feels the pace of launching new models is too high, ultimately confusing the audience, wondering what was wrong with the previous version, right? And comparing these two chronographs specs-wise, it feels like the last year's model felt a bit off trend from the size and the movement perspective. Also having lesser success sales-wise as its small seconds pair, so probably that's why they considered to update it. As product decision, it feels they wanted to close the gap between their $1,000 integrated models to have this anchor between the entry-level models and the more expensive ones, to prove once again the meaning of Zenshin, which means progress and improvement, without breaking the bank to experience it. You'll see, this model is very well balanced specs and quality-wise. I don't have too many things to complain about. In reality, this budget 41mm design really exceeds any standards of quality, competing with ease with other luxurious chronographs from the accents and the dial finishing perspective. Because the way the rainbow accents are interfering with the dial or the light with the highly polished markers and hands, it simply feels premium without a doubt. Firstly, we have to know that this is a solar eco-drive chronograph. It means that the dial itself is a solar panel, which basically ensures that the watch stays always charged, having a power reserve of 9 months. But for me, being used already with the way Grand Seiko was introducing us to the Japanese culture, I can associate the dial with a skyscraper pattern rather than a random dial. It feels like a rainbow which is reflected on the glass pattern of a building after the rain. A valid metaphor because the blue color is helping as well. Since we are at the solar panel chapter, this movement is an in-house eco-drive caliber B620 with solar power. The accuracy tolerance is ± 15 seconds per month, but what I wanted to highlight is the haptic experience of actioning and feeling the chronograph. Luckily it's good, but it could have been better. The good part is that the chronograph hand when action has a mechanical sweep. It looks really nice and it feels accurate. What I dislike is the feeling of the start-stop pushers. It feels like buttons, not like mechanical pushers, as Timex did on their Marlin chronograph. Other than this specific feeling, no complaints about it. As composition, I like how the modern dial is designed and flattened, with a different sizing between the actionable subdials against the smaller contrasted small seconds one. For some, the symmetry of the subdials matters as the older one was designed, but I personally appreciate the modern take of a 2025 chronograph. Besides the aggressive shape of the tonneau case, which facilitates a thinner bracelet, the element that connects the futuristic dial to the case is the dodecagon, which is basically a circle formed from 12 facets. I appreciate the shape especially because it's similar to the octagonal bezel from my Laureato. And I also appreciate the fact that it's made on a highly polished finish, an accent which lets you read only the extremities of the bezel. I know what you're going to say, Andrei, it's highly polished, it's going to scratch. But listen, I have a bit of confidence in their super titanium Duratect composition, which is 5 times more harder than stainless steel. But I'm looking forward to see how the bezel surface will develop in time. About the super titanium, the bracelet sounds jiggly as titanium sounds, but other than that, it is super lightweight to watch with the bracelet adjusted weights 92 grams. And as wearability, imagine that this is super comfortable on the wrist once it's adjusted properly. The size is right at 41mm, the height is good at 11mm, the case lays down beautifully on the wrist surface, but I still expect to find strap alternatives for this watch head. I appreciate the bracelet, but I dislike the idea to have a watch stuck only on a bracelet. Fingers crossed there are spring bars underneath, so hopefully they will provide more strap alternatives in time. The bracelet construction is nicely done. We have some medium links blasted combined with broaching. with highly polished facets on the bottom part. This is a thin, taperless bracelet closed into a small decent clasp which is similar to the small seconds model, but narrower with 2 micro-adjusting points. The tonneau case compared to the previous models is simpler. Without chamfers, it is fully brushy blasted, and the tonneau volume is indeed more aggressive. From its peak of 41mm tapers down to 24mm at the ends of the lugs to meet the bracelet volume. This is a ratio that can or cannot be appreciated, and I think the standing renders of the watch on the internet are not doing justice to this model. It is very nice in reality. Alright, so the dial against the decagonal bezel must be the highlights of the watch. I think the modern dial with the bezel are working very well hand in hand. And to describe the dial properly, the base of the dial feels matted, colored on a navy blue tone, overlaid on the sides by a darker tone which ensures contrast for the chapter ring rays, giving the feeling of a fumé dial. Above it feels like a lacquered rectangular pattern which is basically the solar panel, but as a motif I associated with a glass skyscraper, and on different lighting conditions or angles the rainbow accents can also be previewed. It's actually a nice base for a chronograph. The markers are ultra highly polished with a 12 o'clock shield faceted with lume in the center. The reimagined pencil hands are also highly polished, composed from 2 facets with lume on the middle, where the chronograph hand is a long needle with a red accent on top. The subdials are buried, having a concentric pattern outlined by a matted white stone to create the character of the watch, and there is a small second subdial at 6 o'clock which appears to have a transparent look as the markings are looking like floating above the dial, and somehow the date window is balancing the titanium label. The lume of this model feels to be good. Good for me means consistent, as in if the Zenshin small seconds had the hands brighter than the markers, in this case the reduced markers are even with the hands. And that's important because it gives you the feeling of a solid, consistent built watch, and that can be seen from the specs perspective. This Zenshin Senkei measures 41mm in diameter, has 49mm as lug tip to lug tip, 11mm in height, 15mm between those fatty lugs, and weighs 94 grams. The watch ensures 10 bars as waterproofness, a non-signed crown, a super titanium case with a sapphire glass on top. Inside we have the Eco Drive caliber B620 with chronograph functions and small seconds at 6 o'clock with a power reserve of 270 days. As price, I'm not sure how it is situated on the market. I bought mine as brand new from Chrono24 for 308 euros. It should be somewhere around this range, but one thing is certain, the quality truly exceeds the price asked. Conclusions. Should you grab this? For $380-ish, this is quite a well-built watch to enjoy and to be proud with. I don't see any compromises in regard to the quality. It feels like Citizen wanted to offer more for the people, and they did it. So if you are looking to impress yourself and stay on a budget range, I personally don't see any competitor on this range or above. It's more a matter of if you like or not the design. So these are my initial thoughts in regard to this new Zenshin chronograph. I'm really curious to know, what do you think about it? Please let me know in the comments below. And as usual, if you're new around, please consider subscribing for future episodes. Thank you very much, thanks for watching, and until next time, be brave and stay safe, my friends.